The original Texas Chainsaw Massacre is one of the first slasher movies ever. It was made in 1974 and has become a true classic. It is highly regarded as one of the best movies in this field, but how good is it actually, and should you compare it to modern films? I should warn you that this contains spoilers, but if you're not a fan of old movies, there is no point of watching this film. Characters in this movie are the usual suspects, a group of young people. There is one exception though, one of them is disabled. He is in a wheelchair, but that doesn't influence the flow of the movie in any way. There is absolutely nothing special about any of those characters, they kind of just exist here. A little bit different story is with the bad guys. There is a whole family of them, not just the guy with the chainsaw you probably know about. This may not be anything special these days, but that was a fresh and new idea back then. In this family there is father, the most normal of them all, who works at the gas station. He has two sons, who both are mentally ill. One of them is Leatherface, the guy with the chainsaw. They also have barely alive grandpa. The existence of family of maniacs is a common theme in movies nowadays. But you have to bear in mind that all those modern films follow this movie. That proves that it is a good idea by itself. Leatherface is the most interesting one of these characters because he is a rather big guy and has this leather mask. He has truly menacing look and is one of the best things about this movie. Probably the main reason why this movie got so famous. To fully understand the feeling of this movie, it's important to know some facts about the making of this film, and bear in mind that it is a true 70s movie. At the beginning of the movie it says, "Film you are about to see is true," but it is not true in fact. This is an intentional lying. It was supposed to serve as a protest to Vietnam War, oil crisis and Watergate scandal. Movie's director Tobe Hooper wanted this to symbolize government's lies. The movie had a small budget and actors were very upset by the end of making it, because filming conditions were very poor. Everyone from the cast had obtained some kind of small injuries by the end of it. The most interesting thing about the making of Texas Chainsaw Massacre is that real cattle blood from a local slaughterhouse was used in some scenes, and real animal bones are gathered to decorate the house where the movie was happening. And these are great practical effects because they are real deal. But how does it feel to see this movie in 2022? Let's start with the fact that this is undoubtedly feels like 70s. This vibe is very strong, and that in my opinion is a good thing, because 70s is one of the best periods for horror movies. The movie also has foreshadowing elements, which is good. But this movie really feels like it's low budget. The scenes are simple and there are not a lot of special effects. The best of them are the real blood and bones. But from another perspective it's also a good thing that it's a low budget. That gives this raw feeling, and that may be the scariest thing about it. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is considered to be very controversial, but this must be due to the fact that it was filmed in 70s. I have seen many horror movies and there wasn't anything too crazy, gory or special in this one. Before watching the movie I was kind of scared what I might see here, but it's really not that bad. If you've seen other slasher films you can watch this one too. I already said this, but Leatherface with the chainsaw is really the thing which makes this movie good. And he is also the scariest part about it. He is the sole reason why chainsaw is an iconic horror weapon. Now let's talk about the bad stuff. I know that this is a classic, but we have to take off the rose-tinted glasses and see the things for what they are. Some of the scenes in this movie are very goofy, even comedic. For example, the acting. I'm not saying that actors in this movie are bad, but when some more intense scenes happen, the acting is kind of weird. They all scream and scream and scream and scuttle around like crazy. I understand very well that they are supposed to scream at some moment, but this just doesn't feel realistic. Real people don't act like this. The best way how to describe is that it feels like the director gave them order to act as crazy as possible, and they did. It feels like a fever dream at some points, and this is the case with many 70s movies actually. You can compare this to a play, but this is a movie. In modern films this wouldn't fly. Also, the killings are rather simple, you can't really see the actual kill. This may even be a good thing if you are scared of gore, but here it is noticeable that they did this because they didn't have the special effects to actually show something. Also, the kills happen too fast in my opinion. All the characters fall like flies one by one, and then they are taking a very long time with the main girl. Also, the chase scenes are somewhat unrealistic. The girl falls out of the window and takes a long time to come around, but Leatherface only starts to chase her again when she's ready to run. I also didn't like the scene with the other girl in the ice box. When one of the guys comes to look for her, it appears that she is knocking from inside the ice box. Then he opens the lid and the girl is dead, and then they attempt a bad jump scare by suddenly throwing the girl up. I don't even know what is this supposed to mean. That the knocking and throwing of a body is some kind of paranormal thing? Or was she still alive, but she looked dead for sure? I don't know, but this is a bad scene. There really is a place for improvement in this film. Now let's talk about the story. If this movie came out yesterday there wouldn't be anything remarkable about it. But it came out in 1974 and that changes things. In this movie you can see all the elements of storytelling you see in modern slasher films. The group is traveling in a van to visit the grave of the main girl's grandfather to investigate reports of vandalism and grave robbing. There is this weird foreshadowing event when Franklin, who is in the wheelchair, falls into the ditch at the very beginning. Also, the group takes in the van Leatherface's hitchhiker brother, who cuts Franklin's arm and smears the blood on the car. There are also talks about how animals are slaughtered. This gives the movie the right vibe and pacing at the start. I think that the pacing was good in this movie. Stuff didn't happen too fast. Then there is a problem of running out of gasoline, and the gas station doesn't have any. This leads to the search for gasoline in the killer's house. It is a very simple plot, but bear in mind that this is one of the first movies with this kind of events. In my opinion, especially a good plot point was that in the end the gas station's owner was the father of two mentally disabled brothers. When the killing started, the main girl ran back to him, thinking that the gas station is a safe place, but in reality she got captured by the father. This gives viewer the sense of safety, when actually it is a twist. Further on it gives this anxious feeling that no place is safe, there is nowhere to hide. It was predictable of course, but only because we have seen many such twists. In 1974 this must have been mind-blowing. The backstory of this maniacal family is also pretty interesting. Their grandpa was working in a slaughterhouse, so this gives them foundation for all things gory and bloody. It probably somehow mentally damaged the grandsons and they became maniacs, killing people just like in the slaughterhouse. The idea that they are mentally disabled is very good, because there really is no way of justifying all this madness any other way. It is a truly horrific realization that all this happens without any purpose at all. I think that this family concept is pretty solid. There is also a scene which shows abandoned cars of all the other victims who came before. This is yet again something movies these days use very often. In the end the main girl survives and escapes this madness, and that is also a very popular trope of a survivor girl you see in almost every horror movie. If this movie came out now in such a form how it is, it would be received very badly. I think that rating would be somewhere around 4. In a scale of 10, we can find many bad horror movies like this these days. But this is also very unfair to compare this movie to any modern film, so I won't give it any rating at all. This is truly a piece of history. You have to bear in mind that almost every slasher horror movie follow at least something you can find here, but original Texas Chainsaw Massacre is not a cheap knockoff. It is the one which is studied and repeated. Because of this, it is impossible to rate it. If you want some simple, good entertainment, better find something else to watch. But if you want to explore the history of horror movies, this is definitely one of the cornerstones. Thank you for watching.